It began with a sound that didn't belong, the deep, guttural roar of Harley engines tearing through the silence of Oakwood Drive like thunder splitting open a peaceful sky. 3 bikers rolled into view, their black leather vests catching the afternoon light, their faces hidden behind dark sunglasses and gray beards. Neighbors froze. Curtains twitched. A mother grabbed her son's hand and pulled him inside. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. But then, rising above all that rumbling steel and fear, came a voice, tiny, trembling, heartbreaking. "Sir, please will you buy my bike?" The lead rider's hand shot up. The engines died one by one, and in that sudden silence, the world felt like it was holding its breath. There, at the edge of a cracked driveway, stood a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Her name was Emma, though the bikers didn't know that yet. Her blonde hair hung in tangled strands around a face too thin, too pale. Her pink dress was clean but worn thin at the edges, and her shoes were 2 sizes too small, the toes scuffed white. Beside her stood a purple bicycle with rainbow streamers hanging from the handlebars and a small wicker basket decorated with peeling unicorn stickers. In her small, dirt-smudged hands, she clutched a piece of cardboard. Scrawled across it in shaky crayon letters were 3 desperate words. "Please buy this." The lead biker, a man named Jake with silver threading through his dark beard and a scar running from his left eye to his jaw, kicked down his stand and climbed off. His boots hit the pavement with a heavy thud that echoed down the empty street. Behind him, his brothers Marcus and Leo dismounted in silence, their faces unreadable. Jake walked slowly toward the little girl, and as he got closer, he saw what made his chest tighten like a vice. The hollowness in her cheeks, the way her legs trembled beneath her, the desperate, fragile hope flickering in eyes that had already seen too much darkness for someone so young. He knelt down, his leather creaking, his knees protesting. Up close, she looked even smaller, even more breakable. "Hey there, sweetheart," Jake said, his voice softer than anyone on that street would have believed possible. "What's your name?" "Emma," she whispered, clutching her sign tighter. "Emma? Why are you trying to sell your bike?" The little girl's chin quivered. A tear rolled down her cheek, leaving a clean streak through the dust on her face. Because my mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days, and I think she's going to die if I don't get her some food." Behind her, through the open garage door, Jake's eyes found something that made his blood run cold. A woman, maybe 35 but looking 50, lying motionless on a bare mattress on the concrete floor. Her skin was gray. Her lips were cracked. She was wrapped in a thin blanket, and even from the driveway, Jake could see her ribs pressing against her shirt with each shallow breath. Marcus stepped closer, his jaw clenched. Leo removed his sunglasses, his eyes narrowing. "What happened to your mom?" Jake asked quietly, his voice tight. Emma wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "She got sick. Real sick. After Daddy left us. She tried to keep working, but she kept fainting at her job. They said she couldn't come back until she got better, but we don't have money for doctors, and then we ran out of food. And now, the landlord says, if we don't pay rent by Friday, we have to leave. But Mommy's too sick to move and I don't know what to do," and her words dissolved into sobs, small, broken sounds that seemed too big for such a tiny body. Jake felt something snap inside his chest. Not break, snap. Like the final thread holding back 15 years of buried rage at a world that could let this happen. At a system that could watch a child try to sell her only toy so her mother wouldn't starve. At the invisible cruelty of indifference. If you believe that kindness can come from the most unexpected places, that compassion has no address and heroes wear no uniforms, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Stories That Matter. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need to be reminded that humanity is still worth believing in. But Jake wasn't just angry. He was something else, something more dangerous. He was determined. He stood slowly, his shadow falling over the little girl like a shield. He looked at Marcus and Leo, and in that look passed 1,000 unspoken words. They'd ridden together for 18 years, through storms and Sunday, through loss and redemption. They spoke a language deeper than sentences, older than words. Jake reached into his vest, pulled out his worn leather wallet, and took out every bill inside. $340, everything he had. He knelt again and pressed the folded bills into Emma's small, shaking palm. "You keep that bike, kid," he said, his voice rough with emotion he hadn't felt in years. "You buy your mom some food, you get her whatever she needs, and you listen to me very carefully." Emma stared up at him with wide, disbelieving eyes. "You're not alone anymore. Do you understand me? You're not alone." Tears streamed down Emma's face as she looked at the money in her hands. But this is so much. I can't take." "Yes, you can," Jake interrupted gently. "And we're not done, not even close." He stood and pulled out his phone. His fingers moved fast, dialing a number he hadn't called in 3 years. When a voice answered on the other end, Jake's words were clipped. Urgent. "Tommy, it's Jake. I need you at 247 Oakwood Drive, right now. Bring medical supplies. Everything you've got." He paused. "No, don't ask questions. Just come. I'm calling in that favor." He hung up and dialed again. "Sal? Jake. Listen, I need food, a lot of it. Groceries, fresh stuff, enough for 2 people for at least a month." Another pause. 20 minutes? Perfect. He made 6 more calls. Each one short, each one urgent. Each one to someone who owed him, or someone he'd helped, or someone who'd understand without needing an explanation. Marcus was already on his phone too, his voice low and intense. Leo had walked to the garage, kneeling beside the unconscious woman, checking her pulse, his face grim. "She's breathing," Leo called out. "But barely. She's severely dehydrated, maybe malnourished for weeks." Emma ran to the garage, clutching the money Jake had given her. "Mommy? Mommy, please wake up." "Please, these men are going to help us." The woman's eyes fluttered open, glazed and unfocused. "Emma," she whispered, "baby, you shouldn't strangers." "Shh," Leo said gently. "Ma'am, my name is Leo. Help is coming. Just stay with us." Within 15 minutes, Oakwood Drive transformed. A black pickup truck pulled up, and a man in his 40s jumped out carrying a medical kit. He ran to the garage without a word, dropping to his knees beside Sarah and immediately checking her vitals. "She's in bad shape," Tommy muttered, pulling out an IV kit. "Severe dehydration, malnutrition, possibly pneumonia. She needs a hospital." "No hospitals," Jake said quietly. "She can't afford it. Do what you can here." Tommy looked up, met Jake's eyes, and nodded. "All right, but she needs monitoring. I'll come back every day until she's stable." A delivery van arrived next, and a stocky man with kind eyes began unloading boxes of food: fresh vegetables, bread, milk, meat, canned goods, pasta, enough to fill every empty cabinet in the house. A woman showed up with blankets, pillows, and a space heater. Another man brought toys for Emma, a stuffed bear, coloring books, a new dress. The landlord arrived 40 minutes later, looking annoyed until Jake stepped into his path. "You're the landlord?" Jake asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Yeah, and these people owe me." "Not anymore." Jake pulled out his phone, opened his banking app, and transferred $2,000. "That's 3 months' rent, paid in full. And you're going to fix the heat in this garage before winter hits, understand?" The landlord stared at the confirmation on his own phone, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Yeah, I'll get someone out here." "Tomorrow," Jake said. It wasn't a question. "Tomorrow," the landlord agreed quickly and left. By the time the sun began to set, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples, the garage had been transformed. Sarah was sitting up, an IV in her arm, color slowly returning to her face. She was crying, her hands covering her mouth as she watched strangers move through her space with groceries, medicine, kindness. Emma sat beside her mother, clutching the stuffed bear Leo had given her, her eyes wide with wonder. Jake, Marcus, and Leo stood in the driveway as the last of their friends packed up and drove away. The street was quiet again, but it felt different now. Warmer somehow. Sarah pulled herself to her feet, still weak but determined. She walked slowly to the driveway, Emma holding her hand. "I don't," Sarah's voice broke. "I don't know how to thank you. You didn't even know us. Why would you?" Jake shook his head. "Because Emma asked. And nobody should have to beg for help just to survive." Marcus stepped forward and knelt in front of Emma. "You're a brave kid, you know that? Braver than most adults I know." Emma smiled for the first time since they'd arrived. A real smile, small but genuine. Leo handed Sarah a card. "That's got my number on it. And Jake's. And Marcus's. You need anything, groceries, rides, someone to fix something, you call. We're 5 minutes away." As the three bikers mounted their machines and the engines rumbled back to life, Emma suddenly ran forward. "Wait," she called out. Jake looked back. Will you come back? To visit?" Jake's weathered face softened into something almost like a smile. "Wild horses couldn't keep us away, kid." The motorcycles rolled down Oakwood Drive as the streetlights flickered on, one by one. The neighborhood that had watched in fear that afternoon now stood in doorways and on porches, witnessing something they'd never forget. Sometimes angels wear leather, sometimes heroes arrive on Harleys, and sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to look away to remind the world that compassion is still alive. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can come from anywhere and hope can arrive when you least expect it, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Stories That Matter. Every share helps spread these moments of humanity to people who need them most. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you'd seen Emma on that street corner? Because the difference between despair and hope is sometimes just one person who decides to care.